In 1982, an adventure awaited owners of Mattel's home video game console, the Intellivision. In an era where few games even attempted to leave their static screens, advanced Dungeons & Dragons dared to accomplish what was technologically improbable, creating an open-ended world that could be explored in the primitive age of video games. Arcade games like Burger Time were the typical fare of the early 80s, so when advanced D&D threw in a randomly generated labyrinth, it stood out like a sore thumb. The object of the game is to obtain the fabled Crown of Kings. The catch is that the crown has been split into two separate pieces on Cloudy Mountain, with each half guarded by two winged dragons. Cloudy Mountain's color determines the difficulty setting in your quest to recover the crown. The most challenging games are purple and red, with gray and blue being the novice settings. In the Overworld map, you control a 3-man expedition to scale each mountain and enter its caves. Each small black mountain will turn a color reflective of its difficulty and retrievable item within. Though the Intellivision's number pad is intimidating at first, the included overlay makes things easier to understand. The side triggers speed up your character, the disc is used for moving, and the directional arrows determine the trajectory of your actual arrows. You'll need these arrows to battle the game's many enemies. Though harmless, the bats nullify any other sounds coming from less passive creatures, like the squeaking rats who scurry about when you appear on screen. They don't hurt you much, but if you're already in the red, they can do you in. There's also the blob, who, unlike the rat, can kill you almost instantly regardless. It's also the only enemy in the game that cannot be damaged. Spiders are another harmless enemy, only unlike the bats, they actually steal your arrows upon contact, and that becomes a problem. There is a dedicated arrow count button on the Intellivision's controller. Every click represents a single arrow. Finding a quiver will replenish your dwindling arrow supply. When it comes to the dragons, you'll need every one of those arrows. The novice difficulty settings ensure an easy getaway, but once you crank it up a notch or two, it will practically make escape impossible. Unlike the other monsters, the blue demons are silent, catching you off guard often at the worst time imaginable. The only real way to know they're lurking around the corner is by finding tracks on the terrain. The red snakes let out a hiss before lunging at the player. You can sometimes determine their location based on skulls left behind on the yellow pathway. Worst of all, though, are the winged demons. They're lightning fast and take more hits than any other creature in the game. Ambushing a room is not the smartest strategy. Sometimes the monster will hear your arrows and dash at you while still hidden inside the cave. You can hear a nearby dragon's roar without needing to see it beforehand. Shooting an arrow into a blank room is a great way to carry out a stealth kill. The same logic applies to the hissing snakes, though this strategy is sometimes misleading. You could wind up wasting arrows on a false alarm, or worse yet, ricochet an arrow off the wall back into you. On the Overworld map, problematic obstacles prevent you from reaching Cloudy Mountain. A river can't be crossed on foot, the forest is too dense to hike through, and there are locked gates that cannot be picked. It's through the caves that you'll uncover the items necessary on your trek. It won't be easy though, since every item is guarded by either a snake, demon, or dragon. Once you locate and obtain the item, you'll need to likewise locate and climb up the ladder to move forward in the overworld. In the Blue Mountains, you'll find a boat being protected by a blue demon. Slay the demon and steal his luxurious yacht to cruise up and down the river to your heart's content. The Red Mountains possess a red axe guarded by a red snake. Now that you have your axe, the Forbidden Forest can be chopped away in order to expose new pathways to Cloudy Mountain. The good thing is, once you obtain all of these different tools, they are yours to use endlessly. The most challenging mountain color, purple, throws a monkey wrench in by having a purple dragon guard a blue key. With it, you can now enter the previously locked gates in the overworld. On certain layouts, it's essential to have all three items to reach your ultimate destination, but before this final expedition, you may want to go and gather extra quivers on the Grey Mountains. Cloudy Mountain is no laughing matter. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons could be looked at as the archetype survival horror game. Having to quickly move around winding corridors without enough arrows to defeat the monster chasing you is flat out frightening. The color palette never changes, so the caves eventually all feel like they run together, and you do get temporarily lost. Sometimes the control pad doesn't work precisely enough, which can result in the occasional cheap death, especially when you respawn on a blob. Even with these minor early-era video game flaws, advanced D&D was so ahead of its time that it finds itself standing out as a unique adventure worth revisiting. With only the bare essentials of graphics, no music to speak of, and a reliance on using the sounds and markings of your environment to survive, this is a minimalist journey with a deceptively deep psychology behind it. Few things are as rewarding as combining that crown and conquering Cloudy Mountain.